Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Daily BizLink. Jane Cebrynski is back, and today we are talking about not letting your performance barriers impact or get in the way of transformational change. So, Jane, thanks for being here.
Good morning. Happy 2021.
Woohoo! Here we
It's
go.
crazy. I know. Here we go. So, how about sharing with me a 10 moment so far this year?
Yeah, my 10 moment of the week. Jane, there were a couple things that I had on my list that I really wanted to accomplish in 2020, and darn COVID stinking got in the way. One of those was I published Resources for Growth. It's a wonderful resource guide, which we have it both electronically and in hard copies. The idea was in hard copies, we'd share it at all these awesome events happening in town, and we'd have this big launch party. Well, we know what happened to all those big events and launch parties last year. They got canceled. So I had this beautiful pile of books stacked up in my garage, and I'm like, they can either sit there and collect dust for another month, or we can actually make something happen. So this week I started making deliveries to those people featured within the publication, and that was a 10 moment across the board for me and for the people featured because they really wanted to get their hands on them. So that was my 10 moment of the week.
Good for you. And then how did you feel afterwards? Obviously, if you're calling it a 10 moment.
Jane, I felt so good. I had to celebrate that success. I treated myself to lunch afterwards because I was like, heck yeah, I kicked some butt yesterday morning. So it was good.
Yay, I love that. Well, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of talk about performance barriers and transformational change, because, as we're going into 2021, many people had some renewed hope and renewed, energy towards going for goals and going for new things. And as you talked about, for a long time, we might be looking at COVID and what's happening in the news and, in the world on a much bigger picture. And that's becoming the performance barrier. That's the thing that is getting in the way of people moving forward with their dreams and their visions. And so I just wanted to kind of, bring that to light for some people to just, honor or acknowledge, like, okay, right now I'm letting the news, my time spent watching the news, viewing the news, what's going on with COVID. Because what I've been hearing a lot about is, people are just tired. They're weary. They're tired of what's happening in the news, what's happening in society, tired of, and again, not to minimize it, it's very, very, very important. But it becomes a matter of, okay, are you letting this now become the performance barrier that's getting in the way of you moving forward? Whether it's from a time management standpoint or an energy and emotional management component. I mean, that's super significant.
Yeah,
What are
I
your
think
thoughts on that?
I was coming up with excuses. I mean, COVID was my number one go-to because I kept saying, "Oh, well, we're going to get back to normal and we'll resume exactly where we left off." And the longer this thing draws out, the more I'm realizing, okay, that's not going to happen. So how can we actually accomplish our goals despite that? So I know we all have talked about adapting and pivoting, and those words are probably way overused, but
Right.
I think it's really important that if we want to make things happen, we have to find a way to overcome them. So overcoming those performance barriers is crucial to our future success. So we can't control COVID. There's a lot of things in this world we can't control, but what we can put into action or make happen, we should.
Well, the thing is just acknowledging, like just being really honest with yourself. If it is getting in the way and it is becoming a performance barrier for you, then, what's your action to change around it? Maybe you choose to minimize the amount of time that you spend looking, viewing, watching. Maybe you are in a position where you feel like you can eliminate it altogether. But the most important thing is really anchoring in the bigger picture. What are your visions? What are your goals? And what are the things that you want to achieve? And, the truth is, when we are going through transformational change, and there's a lot of people that are in the middle of, they've been working on change and they've been going through change. And it sort of made me also think about what we call workout weariness, which is, you're going for change and you want to go back to the old muscle memory. You want to look for those excuses. You want to put those performance barriers back into play because it's easier. Let's face it, change is not easy. And the greatest visual that I was given that has really helped me is, when you think about going into the gym and you're going to do a few reps, those first few reps that you're going for are relatively easy. It's not until you get through the 12th, 13th, 14th rep that you start to fatigue out the muscle. And that's actually when transformation and change happen. So it's super easy for us to let COVID and other things, be the obstacle that we put in our way. But that's when we have to really push through. And we have to really, really, really tighten up our workouts, stay focused on our goals in order for that transformational change to occur.
Yeah, I think we all have some choices to make here. The one thing is COVID and or everything else happening in the world over the course of the last year, it's made us all feel incredibly uncomfortable for a long period of time. So we've made it, we've survived, we're still standing, we can do it. But the question you have to ask yourself is, do you want to then fall back to where you were pre-COVID? Or do you want to come out of this thing looking, feeling, acting better than ever? So
yeah, therefore you've got to push through the discomfort. You've got to push through in those moments that you want to quit, and just, go for one more rep.
all right, Jane. So what's the challenge of the week? I know there's a lot of great stuff here, but what would you encourage our listeners to really think hard about over the course of the next week?
I would just literally, acknowledge and honor the truth. If you're allowing what's happening to be the performance barrier, ask yourself, what's my action to change? And just make one small change at a time that is still allows you to keep moving forward and going for your goals. And if you're, experiencing workout weariness when you've been going for some change, then just, go for that visual of, okay, I've got to fatigue out my muscles. So go for one more rep, push through it, knowing that that's how the change actually starts to happen.
Well, and if you're an individual that feels like you need a little extra help with this, Jane, as well as a couple other remarkable women, will be hosting or leading conversations at our Awesome Women in Business Mix, Mingle, and Motivate event focused on reaching our full potential. So Jane will be helping out, as well as 3 other guest speakers. So it's an event you don't want to miss. So if you need extra help, that's the event you want to sign up for. So Jane,
Yeah,
as
you
always,
got it.
thanks for being here.
Thanks so much, Lindsay. Have a great week.